Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today, we are finally discussing the moment that was undoubtedly my most longed for and anticipated scene in all of the Horus Heresy, with Malcador the Sigillite ascending the Golden Throne. Oh boy, this one is going to be emotional. A spoiler warning to begin here, as the events we're discussing today are from the Horus Heresy novel The End and the Death Volume 1 by author Dan Abnett. As always, I really recommend you read the stories for yourself first without spoilers, as that's the best way to enjoy the lore for yourself. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Well, whether fact or fiction, there are some things in life that just become true moments in time. Events that transcend boundaries and become something truly special. For all the epic face-offs and monumental events of the Horus Heresy, there are truly few that can be classified as defining, that shaped its universe and transcended the lore. And Malcador the Sigillite ascending the Golden Throne is absolutely one of those moments. For me, arguably the moment. Throughout the Horus Heresy series, we had glimpses into the interactions and relationship between the Emperor of Mankind and his Regent. Two of the most unknown yet integral characters to the history of the Warhammer 40k universe. The creators of the Primarchs, the Space Marines, the instigators of the Great Crusade, and the founders of the Imperium. All of it. There really is no one more important. And so over the years, getting scenes of these two conversing, seeing them in the flesh and finally brought to life, it was nothing short of fascinating. Like seeing something sacred. Getting to see the truth behind the myth. The reality of their hopes and dreams. And of course, that's what the heresy was all about. The end of the dream. The ruination of everything they worked for. A victory torn from defeat. And it was a victory only possible thanks to the sacrifice of Malcador the Sigillite. At the culmination of the heresy, the forces of the Warmaster ravaged the throne world, butchering the cradle of humanity. Horus and Chaos knew the only real route to success was to defeat the Emperor himself, and thus they besieged the Imperial Palace, throwing everything they had at its walls. And yet the defenders held. Through unimaginable struggle, courage and defiance, they refused the Warmaster's victory, costing him time and blood for every inch of ground. And so it was in the darkest depths of the battle, with the enemy crashing against the Eternity Gate, Malcador the Sigillite sat on a simple wooden bench beside the Golden Throne, waiting to hear from his master. Weak and weary beyond his years, yet still psychically conducting 1,000 things throughout the remaining forces, the most pivotal of which was trying to save Jagatai Khan's life, attempting to pull his departed soul back into his broken body. And after countless attempts, finally he would be successful, before realizing it wasn't his doing at all, that it was the Emperor who had reached past Malcador and performed the feat for him. For the time had finally come. The Emperor would simply tell Malcador, "I cannot fight alone." And Malcador would spring into action, casting his psychic mind outwards to call their remaining most trusted champions to them. Vulcan, Rogel, Sanguinius, and Constantin Valdor. And I do have to mention, Malcador here does make a comment about he shares the immortal gift of Vulcan and the Emperor. which I admittedly completely forgot about for our last conversation, which again just keeps the whole perpetual and rebirth question in flux. However, I digress. While they waited, the Emperor would then show Malcador his intent, showing him the full scope and carnage of the battle above, all the way up to the vengeful spirit, with its shields now lowered, with Malcador realising the opportunity it represented. A trap, certainly, but a hope regardless. The Emperor would teleport aboard to face the War Master and the United Pantheon. A final roll of the dice to save humanity. And there's a great little moment here where Malcador, sitting impatiently on the bench, is nervously tapping his staff against the floor over and over, and he feels the Emperor's hand psychically rest on top of his, stopping him. And it's just a great little moment between the two, that with everything going on, everything the Emperor is having to contend with, he just has to tell his mate, "Alright, enough, knock it off now. You're being annoying." And it's just a great little representation and reminder of the fact that at the heart of it all, at the core of all this chaos, no pun intended, there is this friendship. A very human relationship. The two of them knowing each other better than anyone, being able to talk to each other as friends would. Malcador alone in the galaxy, who could do that with the master of mankind. And the Emperor asks him if he's having second thoughts, which you might take as a sole concern for his plan. However, for me, it's not. It's a clear concern for Malcador. However, Malcador assures him that he's not, that he's just nervous, preparing himself mentally for what's ahead. And it's then that the Primarchs and Valdor begin to arrive, giving us an incredibly poignant moment between Sanguinius and Rogel, which we have discussed before, which I really recommend you check out if you haven't already, because it's perfect Sanguinius, as he makes a point of telling his brother how proud of him he is, in case he doesn't get a chance to after. And then, with the Emperor opening the webway portal for Vulcan to arrive, the champions are assembled. And the Emperor's plan is explained to them, which was actually originally for them all to remain there, to continue to defend the throne, while the Emperor boarded the vengeful spirit alone, which of course all the Primarchs and even Valdor refused. And despite the initial shock, Malcador sees their refusal as the act of loyalty it is, and urges the Emperor to listen to them, which he does, however again naming Sanguinius and Vulcan to remain. In truth, because he was fully aware of the wounds that the Angel was concealing, and of course Vulcan was needed in case they failed, to destroy the Golden Throne. And with the plan set, it begins immediately. Now, I ask? He tells me yes. Already? I sigh. It's foolish. I've been preparing for this moment since the day we realised that Magnus was no longer a viable candidate. My lord has been unwavering in his reassurance to me. He believes me capable, and I trust that. For our minds have been strangely intertwined for a long time, long before he took up the title Emperor and I became a Sigillite. It's not that I wanted longer. I've had enough years, more than my fair share, but there is still so very much to do. However, in truth, I wish this had happened when I was younger and stronger, and invulnerable with the recklessness of youth, rather than now, when I am so old and so tired. Not that it would really have made any difference. Still, I am lost in my thoughts as I begin to limp my way towards the great dais, ordering my mind, settling my estate, frantically sending out last-moment thought notes and idea symbols, reminders and instructions, so that others can finish what I will leave unfinished. These sigilized messages swirl around me like a colony of bees evicted from their hive, flying off piecemeal in every direction to find new homes. It is sloppy, haphazard work. I have no time left to be methodical, precise or polite. Everything just goes, dumped like ballast from my head. I am so lost in my thoughts, I do not really pay attention to what's going on around me. I stop short when I hear a gasp. It would stop anyone to hear Primarchs gasp in surprise and dread, and hear them fall to their knees in abject obeisance. At the foot of the gleaming dais, I look up. I look up the exquisite steps that I will climb and never come down again. The sun is in my eyes. My Lord, my King of Ages, my friend, my Master of mankind. He stands. He has risen from the golden throne. He stands above me like the god he isn't. He stands. 2 simple words, a single simple action, yet it's one of the most epic things you'll ever read or hear. He stands. The Emperor standing from the golden throne at last. So akin to him simply opening his eyes earlier in the Heresy, during the novel Master of Mankind, when he went to war within the webway. A character just so awe-inspiring, a single description can give you goosebumps. An action that drops even Primarchs to their knees in awe. For so long the Emperor has been imprisoned upon the throne. Like Malcador here, you almost forget just how powerful he is. A being truly with no equal, who even after all of those centuries can still overwhelm even Malcador with his sheer appearance. Powers that be. I had forgotten this. I had forgotten his majesty. I had forgotten how tall he was, how astronomic, how wonderful, how terrible. How did I ever think I could take his place? What kind of old and tired fool am I? I ought to bow. I need to bow down. I need to abase myself and bury my face in the stones of the floor, for he is too bright to behold. I fuss and fumble, clumsily, my old limbs too stiff to obey me. I stumble, hands catch me, and arrest my fall before I crack my face against the lower steps of the dais. The sentinels, Uzkarel and Kaikautus, have swept from their posts at the moment of my misstep, but they have not reached me in time. The hands supporting me belong to Rogel and Sanguinius. Vulcan is with them, his hand extended to help me upright. Constantine looms behind them, concern in his eyes. "Let me help you," says Sanguinius. "Oh, forgive an old man," I mutter. "Steady yourself," says Rogel. "I am steady as ever, my boy," I chuckle. They set me on my feet. Vulcan hands me my staff. I look at them. They surround me, their worry for me showing in their faces. I shoo them away. "I'm fine," I assure them. "These old legs. When you get to my age, eh?" Sanguinius looks at me. His jaw tightens. "I'm fine," I insist. Valdor nods curtly. The 2 proconsuls step past the Primarchs and stand either side of me to guide me up the steps. They reach to take my arms to support me. "Oh no," I tell them. "I'll climb these damn steps myself." "Give us the honour, Lord, of escorting you at least," says Uzkarel quietly. I huff and allow it. I begin my climb up the steps of the plinth, squinting into the glare, pulling myself up each step with my staff as a prop clutched in both hands. It is a struggle for me, but nothing like the struggle that will follow. Above me, my King of Ages waits. He remains standing, motionless, silent, ignoring the awe that fills the throne room. all eyes upon him, eyes that never thought to see him stir or stand again. They have longed for him to rise, and now they are terrified of what his rising signifies. He looks only at me, right into my heart. Ugh, man, if this entire moment wasn't already emotional enough, having had us building towards this and anticipating it for years, with Malcador becoming a truly great character in his own right, the author Dan Abnett then plays an absolute emotional masterclass by then having us see this frail old man really pulling on those heartstrings. The trip, the fall, as he's heading up the steps, only to be caught by the Angel, Rogel and Vulcan, the Primarchs who grew to be sons, who Malcador came to love as sons himself, and with Valdor there too, his closest companion outside the Emperor, flusteringly trying to tell them I'm fine, but the concern and worry clear upon their faces, the jaw tightening on Sanguinius, expressing everything without the need for any words, with Malcador again having to insist, reaffirm to them I'm fine. Say what you want about the Primarchs, the Emperor, Malcador, as dysfunctional as so many of their relationships were, this is a family. I'm sure many of us have been there when you've got a family member in frail condition, and you have to steady them, like here, and they shoo you away and tell you that they're just fine like Malcador, but you just know that they're not. You see them weaker than they used to be. And that is the feeling for Sanguinius here, that they all have. And it's combined with the notion that it's also them having to say goodbye. I swear, if Sanguinius had called Malcador uncle here, I think that would have pushed me over the edge. I was already welling up the first time that I read this, and then again when I heard the audio version. The absolute emotion that the legendary Jonathan Keeble placed into Malcador, and all of the characters here in general. Honestly, if you've never listened to the audio version of The End and the Death, all 3 volumes of it in fact, I absolutely cannot recommend it enough. However, again I digress. So it is Valdor has Malcador assisted up the steps, where the Sigillite then stops them halfway, etching a sigil onto their armour for protection, making them promise to bring the Emperor back here, to the Golden Throne, no matter what. And not because of their duty, but for him, to do this one thing for him. And then he continues the rest of the journey up the steps by himself. I near the top, the light around me. My lord and master moves. He steps down to me and offers me his hand in support. That hand, that great and capable hand that has held the galaxy in its palm. I feel him close. To my surprise, he permits me to share the private workings of his mind. The signs I read there are clear. Don't be sad, I say. This is more painful than he expected it to be. He is afraid he will never speak to me again. That there will be no more hours spent exchanging thoughts and words, configuring mankind's best fate. His memories are Antarctic bright. The day he first showed me the throne, and told me what it did. The shining look of disbelief in my eyes. The evening when we both realised that I could moderate its functions too. That my mind, like his, had the capacity to engage with it and not instantly perish. The night when we concluded, through plain logical deduction, that there might come a day when I would have to take his place. That, in almost every configuration of the future we could model, someone would have to do it. I was not afraid. Not then. Not now. I knew what that would mean. I brushed it off as a thing that would have to happen if it came to it. He hoped it never would, because he knew what it would mean too. and for the longest time, it seemed unlikely. He had built a contingency to avoid it ever becoming compulsory. The contingency's name was Magnus. Now the time is here. I do not hesitate. I take the hand he offers to steady me, and I ascend the final steps to the throne. I give him a nod and a little smile, and whisper to him, "Do not mourn," in a voice that no one else can hear. And then I prepare to take my seat. There is nothing else to say. After centuries of conversation, in which we have dissected and shared everything, there is nothing left to say. Just a look from one friend to another. An unspoken understanding of everything that has passed between us, and the debts we owe each other. This act is my final, everlasting gift to mankind, to the future, to the plan painted on the wall. But in his eyes, I can tell he knows that I am only really doing it for him. The greatest, most universal acts are always born from the personal. I am old. I am tired. I sit upon the golden throne. Ugh. You know, you wait for something, you expect it, you know what's going to happen, and still somehow you're not quite prepared for it. That's exactly what happened for me when reading this, and ironically, it's exactly the same for the Emperor himself. As Malcador said, they knew it could come to this, hoped it wouldn't, but they knew. And then, when it has finally come, the Emperor can't disguise his sorrow. For all the claims of his uncaring nature, his elevated mind, so far distant from the rest of us, for all the fact we know he has been losing his humanity since before the Great Crusade, he still here can't escape that mortal emotional pain. It's the Emperor coming to terms with the fact that he's going to miss Malcador, miss his friend, and that he's making the sacrifice he is for him. And it's another reminder that he is human still, that somewhere within, past all the rational reasoning and logic, there does beat that emotional center. The moment being harder than he expected. Being afraid he won't ever be able to speak to Malcador again. Afraid. The Emperor of mankind. Afraid. The man who set out to unify mankind and face down the literal gods of chaos, who is going to face the full might of the united pantheon without blinking, is afraid. Because he probably won't get to see his friend again. I mean, come on. This is it. This is the core of it all. That at the beating heart of it, behind all the unifying of a race and galactic conquests with demigod warriors, there was just two friends who set out to do it together. And there is no greater or more perfect showcase of that than Malcador here, revealing that, yeah, the future of mankind is important, but in truth, he's really just doing it because his friend needs him to. But in his eyes, I can tell he knows that I am only really doing it for him. The greatest, most universal acts are always born from the personal. And perhaps the key piece of it all, a line perhaps many would overlook. Malcador whispering to the Emperor, "Do not mourn." A comment that only the two of them would ever hear or know, attempting to spare his friend grief. A comment that truly lets us know the Emperor, for all his power, still suffers the same frailties as all of us within. You never quite know what to expect when you've been anticipating something for so long. But this moment lived up to and well exceeded any expectation. A hallowed moment we knew we were heading towards for years, but somehow never quite thought we'd see. And it just absolutely smashed it out the park. It really did. And the icing on the cake is the moment after, when the Emperor and the Primarchs are looking up at Malcador upon the throne, and Vulcan says he can feel his pain. And Rogel adds his sadness too. But then Sanguinius corrects him, saying no, it's not Malcador's sadness, it's yours, isn't it? To their father. And the Emperor doesn't say anything, he just keeps looking up at Malcador, confirming it without words, because you know it's true. The end of the Sigillite and the birth of the hero. As always everyone, what do you think? Were you surprised with how this moment played out? Did it live up to your expectations or exceed them like mine? Were you surprised to see such emotion revealed from the Emperor himself here? And does it alter your perception of him? And does the fact that Malcador was truly doing it for his friend change your view of his sacrifice? And how about the reactions of the Primarchs? Were you hoping to see more? Or does the look on their faces convey more, mean more, than any words ever could? And is this one of the most emotional moments of the Heresy for you? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. A huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.